This show is always developing and changing, so it's once again time to go behind the scenes and see what it takes to make an episode like this. This first bit's going to be quick, so get ready for it. First, I set up the camera slightly above eye level and use the Aperture VS3 monitor so that I can set focus from a larger screen. I bring in a light without any diffusion so I can see exactly where the shadows are falling. I'm happy with that, so I bring in the second light for more power and then soften them with a silk. I can then change the aperture of the lens until the false colour shows me as grey, which is my new favourite way to set exposure. I bring in my microphone on a light stand and position it just out of frame. Lastly, I block my computer screen since it's really good at reflecting sound waves. Then I hit record and film the episode. But hang on a second, we can't just ignore all of the really important things that happened before the camera's turned on. So let's go back to the start. I think writing is the most important part of these episodes. I start by getting down some bullet points on paper, far away from a computer. Now when it comes to writing, I always feel like my expectations are greater than my abilities. So for instance, I'd really like it if these episodes were accessible, not complicated. There's no need for overly technical language. Interesting, not obvious. I don't want to say things that you've heard a million times before. Personal, not preachy. I don't want to act like I have all the answers. And creative, not just technical. So no product reviews or unboxings. And trying to get in that tiny little section in the middle there is why it takes me so long to write these episodes. So next I go through and expand my bullet points with more detail and usually end up with about 8 minutes of content. I reckon that depending on the topic, 4 minutes is a happy medium for this show. So I use those aims to help me really squish it down, getting rid of some ideas and then also saving ones for another episode. Just like going for a run, it's really difficult and painful to do, but you never regret it afterwards. Once I'm happy with the content, I set up the camera, the lights, the audio, and we're back. Now I refuse to read from a teleprompter, so it literally takes me over an hour to record a 4-minute episode. I'll keep saying something till I'm happy, then I'll move to somewhere else and adjust the microphone, reset focus if I have to, like so, using the monitor, and then I'm ready to say the next thing. Post-production starts with a routine edit. I match up the audio with the video files and then cut out all of my mistakes. Then I do standard EQ and compression, which I went through in the last behind the scenes at DSLRguide video, which is linked on the blog post. Next is colour correction. Now the short version is that I add a tiny little bit of sharpening and then some contrast, as well as a little bit of green because these lights I use are slightly too magenta. Now we'll talk about all of this in a future episode. Now at this stage I usually start working on the thumbnail. I've went through many different phases, but these days I'm basically just treating it as photography. It's a long and frustrating process, but it's well worth spending time on. In fact, I've already done an entire episode about making thumbnails, which is also on that blog post. Now this isn't a radio show, so I always make use of other shots to illustrate the things I'm saying. B-roll. Some of it is purely demonstrational, but my favourites are visual metaphors. A good metaphor can shed light on a topic. You flip things around a bit so people can better understand what's going on. So back in the editing timeline, I have a bunch of markers where there should be B-roll or text, and then I go through and replace each marker like a to-do list. By the time I start working on the music, I'm most interested in doing things quickly. I always start at the piano and try and think about the vibe of the episode. Once I've got a couple of ideas, I develop those into separate instruments that I bring in and out to fit with the timing of the video. Once the music is in, I'll watch it through again to check and then export it to start the upload. Aside from that, I'm always emailing and responding to comments, tweets, as well as posting every day on Instagram. This YouTube thing is really not a glamorous lifestyle. There's a whole lot of procrastination and just working really long days on weekends and evenings. But you know, I like to remind myself that if just one person decided to, after watching these videos, eat an apple, then you know what? It would all be worth it. My name's Simon Cade, this has been DSLR Guide, and I'll see you next week.